The Girl from Otto, Book 1, Chapter 6, Spring 1487, Abbey of Bellerac, Béarn, Beatrice. The children shrieked with delight, chasing a blue butterfly through the plot of bare dirt in the infirmary cloister. Beatrice smiled in satisfaction, ticking items off a list in her mind. By the end of the week, the garden would be entirely planted in herbs, beans, peas, carrots, and greens. She had asked 2 villagers to dig up wild rose plants from the slopes overlooking the valley and deliver them to her today. Miramonde Otto, called Mira by the residents of Bellerac, ran among the other children. Leaping with one hand outstretched to ensnare the fluttering butterfly, she tripped over the hem of her skirt and fell face first in the dirt. As far as Beatrice could tell, the mishap had no effect on the girl, who jumped up and resumed her pursuit of the butterfly at once. But that was Mira. Her tolerance for discomfort was unlike that of any other child in Beatrice's experience. It was time for the next delivery of Otto gold from the mountain woman Elena, payment for the care and feeding of the girl. Yet the spring rains were behind them, the crops had been planted, and still the woman did not come. Beatrice tried not to worry. After all, it had been a harsh winter. Perhaps snow still covered the paths. The sound of a man shouting invaded her thoughts, and she walked quickly to the abbey gates. A wild-eyed villager grasped the iron rungs. "Horsemen approach, Mother Abbess!" he cried. "Be on guard!" Beatrice heard the far-off thrumming of hooves on the hard-packed dirt road. Many hooves, from the sound of it. "Tell all the villagers you see to go inside their homes and bar the doors. Do you hear?" The man wheeled and sprinted away. She put a hand on the iron keyring at her waist. A young nun who had become her assistant of sorts, Agathe, had followed her to the gates. Beatrice found her voice. "Sister Agathe, gather the children. Tell everyone you see to go to the chapel, sisters and servants alike. Go!" Agathe hurried away. The sound of hoofbeats was louder. Beatrice stood back, her eyes on the stone wall and the sharp spires of the gate. Was it high enough to keep marauders out? She swallowed and closed her eyes for a moment. "Mira!" she heard a girl call. "Where are you? Mira!" Beatrice whirled. One of the novices who cared for the children was darting this way and that in the courtyard. "What is the matter?" Beatrice asked, listening to the clatter of hooves in the distance. Were there 3 horses? 10? "Mira is hiding. I don't know where she is," the girl said, her blue eyes wide with fear. "Go to the chapel. I will find the child." The girl hesitated. "Go!" The girl ran off. The horsemen were nearly at the gate. Pounding rose in her ears like thunder. She turned to face it. There was a blur of color, dust rising from the road, the stamping of hooves, the glint of armor. Beatrice took a step forward, then froze, staring at the banners carried by the horsemen. Her legs felt weighted down by lead. A man on a great black horse pulled off his helmet and gazed around impatiently, one hand on the hilt of his sword. He wore a suit of red leather armor with a mail shirt underneath. His bearded face was lean and dark, his mouth a wide red slash, his eyes shaded by thick brows. "Mother Abbess!" he shouted. "The house of Otto calls." His deep voice had an Aragonese lilt to it. Several of the other men laughed. At that moment, a child's giggle broke out behind Beatrice. The high, clear sound of it floated over the gates. Mira de Otto appeared at her side. Her slanting gray-green eyes were fixed on the horseman. Beatrice bent down and snatched her up. "My lord, please forgive us. We're not prepared for your visit." She craned her head, searching in vain for a litter bearing other members of the noble family. "Do you bring your lady wife, and the baron and baroness?" Beatrice pressed Mira's face into her shoulder. She felt the thumping of Mira's heart intertwine with her own heartbeat. and her nostrils filled with the acrid odors of horse dung and sweat. The girl struggled to free herself. "I am the Baron now, Abbess," Miramonde said. "Pray for the souls of my parents. My father was betrayed on his own lands, and the shock of his murder killed my mother." He tossed his helmet to a squire as he dismounted. "Their deaths grieve me more than I can say." At the sound of his voice, the girl stopped squirming. Her small body relaxed against Beatrice's chest, and she turned her head, listening. Ramon walked to the gate and thrust out a hand, rattling the rungs. "I have not ridden across the mountains simply to share the news of my parents' death, Mother Abbess. I have come to make amends and soothe an old hurt. Our family once patronized this place. Though my father let the connection lapse, I vow to do better." "Yes, my lord, forgive my confusion. I thought, when my letter to your family went unanswered, that—" Before she could complete her sentence, Mira pulled the cap off her head and flung it on the ground, revealing her long coppery hair. Beatrice froze in horror. "Surely there is more for me to see here than a child from your nursery," Ramon said in exasperation. "Or shall I begin my inspection with her?" His men laughed again. Beatrice felt her knees nearly give way. The Baron's men were ensconced in the warming house next to the gates, tearing into a spread of beer, bread, and ham. She had sent the oldest and least attractive servants to tend them. Mira was whisked away to the nursery. Ramon de Otto showed no sign of recognition at the sight of his daughter. And why would he? As far as he knew, she had never existed. The thought calmed Beatrice's mind. Her racing heart slowed. After he ate his fill, the young Baron strode out of the warming room, the heels of his dusty black boots clicking on the stone pavers. Beatrice was waiting for him at the gates. They strolled through the fields and orchards. She was rightly proud of the progress the villagers had made in the valley, taming the brambles, tilling and replanting the fields, stringing up frames for the hops. Slender shoots of new green wheat shimmered under the noonday sun, and neat rows of hop vines twined up alder-frame poles, snaking along the flax ropes that connected them. Surely this display of organization would impress him. "Wheat and barley, but not as much as I would like to see. And hops. You brew beer on rather a large scale for a convent, I would say." His deep voice had a disdainful edge to it. "We trade beer with neighboring landholders in exchange for grain and straw to feed the sheep during winter," she explained. "Bartering is one thing, gold is another. How do you earn income?" "We draw a small amount of income from several sources. Our record books will show you how we have fared since I took the helm of this place." She thanked God that she had burned every one of the letters sent by Marguerite to Otto, and her stash of Otto gold was hidden in a place unknown even to the cellaress. The record books showed no mention of that transaction. Ramon surveyed the far hills, his eyes on the cluster of stone huts and willow pens that housed sheep during winter. "Where are your flocks? This valley bursts with crops, but I see no sheep." "The shepherds sheared them, then herded the flocks to the high meadows. We shall take the fleeces to market in Ney come June." "Ney, is it? I know a merchant there. My flocks in Aragon are large, but the demand for wool comes now from the north, not across the eastern sea. Perhaps some of my animals could overwinter here. The valley is plenty large enough for my purposes. The beasts could be sheared here as well, and the wool transported to Ney for sale at market." His brown eyes swiveled over the fields and orchards, assessing, calculating. When they settled on her face, the skin on her neck prickled. He was the most intimidating man she had ever encountered, but she kept her voice steady. "We would be delighted to accommodate you, my lord." A servant opened the tall iron gates, and the two of them passed through to the courtyard. An enormous pile of rags by the warming house door caught Ramon's attention. He stopped in mid-stride. "Even a place as downtrodden as this should be kept tidy," When we are not hosting visitors, the warming house is a workshop of sorts. The nuns are making paper from linen, my lord. It is a technique invented by the Moors. It is a common technique. Our family uses nothing else for correspondence. Beatrice felt a stab of irritation at his condescending tone. I am from the north, she said. Linen paper of this quality is not common there, so we have developed a trade in it. It is a modest addition to our income, but every bit helps. So you build wealth with beer, grain, paper, and wool. Yes. If she was going to ask for more, now was the moment. However, my lord, this is just a beginning. If we had a wool washing station, we could sell wool that is ready to be spun and finished. The merchants of Ney desire it, and they say it is coveted by merchants as far away as Flanders. They say, Ramon scoffed. I could swear I heard the exact words from Carlos Sacazar. I am also acquainted with Lord Sacazar, Beatrice said. There is no one more schooled in the wool trade than he. Why not benefit from his knowledge? After the shearing, we could wash wool for you, then sell it in Ney. You would scarce be involved. Of course, we would need funds to construct the wool washing station. He thrust a hand under his cloak and pulled out a leather sack. There is talk of another war with the Moors. One day soon I will be called to battle again by Queen Isabella. The matter could take years to resolve. He tossed the sack in the air and caught it. The jangle of coins rang in her ears. This is more than enough to build your wool-washing station, but my flocks will take precedence over your scrubby Pyrenees sheep. Do you understand? I possess the finest merinos in Aragon. I will be comparing the income you report to me with those of other sheep breeders in the region who sell their wool in the north. I expect higher returns than any of them. Is that clear? She bowed her head. Of course. Thank you, my lord. Your generosity will not go unnoticed by God. Nor the Queen. Before I leave here, you will write to Queen Isabella to report on my generosity. She hurried to keep up with him. His legs were impossibly long. He stopped and turned to face her, leaning so close she could smell his bitter sweat. The Queen must know every detail of my piety. In fact, let us proceed to the chapel, so that I may confess to the priest. You will note that in your first letter. Our priest is indisposed, I regret to say. Is he ill? No more than any elderly man. He says the Mass and hears the confessions, I assure you. The priest was snoring off last evening's wine, his mottled red skin the evidence of a life spent inebriated. Beatrice could have written to her superiors in Pau long ago and requested a replacement. But the efficacy of a chapel vicar was far down on her list of priorities, and a new priest could disturb the order of things at Bellerac. She would not tolerate the introduction of an unknown male into the world she was crafting here. Not now, not yet. The thought, in truth, frightened her. Be that as it may. Ramon paused a moment, his eyes boring into hers. If you fail to do as I order, I will see to it that every bishop in Béarn is informed that you preside over this place like a queen yourself, without oversight of a capable priest. I certainly see the benefit in it. Free to lead as you wish, with no interference from a man of the cloth. The punishment for such audacity would be quite severe, I imagine. Excommunication at the least. Or perhaps they would make an example of you and burn you at the stake. His words thudded like axe blows in her ears. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, he thrust the leather sack in her face. I care not for your reasons and excuses, he said. All that matters is your allegiance to my wishes. So? Yes. She grasped the sack with both hands to stop her fingers from trembling. I swear to do as you ask.